Hello. I'm Shasta Caffarelli. I'm the Senior Vice President of Media Investment at Tenuity, proudly representing the team of buyers that executes and negotiates many of the tentpoles for our clients that we're going to chat about today.
Awesome. And my name is Harry Brown. I'm VP of Media Innovation for all things TV, audio, and display. And as Shasta alluded to, we are here to talk about tentpoles and all of the exciting things that we can do with them. I think when we use the word tentpole, I think most of us in this room probably immediately think about things like the Super Bowl, some of the biggest, most expensive, and flashiest opportunities there are. But we're lucky enough to be joined today by 3 brands who have taken unique approaches to the idea of tentpoles. And they have, in some cases, gone very, very big, and in other cases, gone more targeted, used opportunities like digital and local inventory to really access some of these big opportunities in cost-effective and performant ways. So I'm going to go down the line, and I'm going to have each of you introduce yourselves, and we're also going to watch a quick commercial, or I should say a quick spot from your campaign. So Graham, why don't we kick it off with you?
Sounds good. My name is Graham Geppert, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Digital Commerce and Media at Poppi. And I'm going to intro really quick and set up this 60-second commercial spot that we aired in the Super Bowl. This is a very interesting spot, and I'll talk about the evolution of this creative later in this chat. But this is kind of like this relatable situation that we all kind of find ourselves in at times, where there's this moment of indecision on what to drink, right? You're trying to be good, but you want something with some flavor. So it's very relatable, and in that moment, you're kind of met with, clarity on what that answer should be. So we call this Soda Thoughts. This is our Soda Thoughts campaign, and let's check it out.
Right this second, at some diner somewhere, I'll have someone really wants a soda. And they're not alone, because somewhere else, there's a bunch of other someones that are also thinking about soda. Like her.
Hello? Are you okay?
I'm thinking. See? But soda feels like a lot of sugar right now. And these other drinks, too much buzz, no flavor. What if there were a better soda?
Hurry up!
Hey, yo, Han.
Bestie.
Okay, I'm gonna freak out. It's a drive-through, not a confession booth. Show up a poppy, please.
Stop spiraling. Get a poppy. Get a poppy.
Get a poppy.
Don't mind if I do.
Pizza?
Hello, Poppy.
Hey.
Oh, yes. What a lineup. Okay. I mean, a soda with 5 grams of sugar.
It's good, right?
It is good.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
And I have seen lots of folks throughout the day drinking their poppies, so they are taking the message. And Brooke, how about yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Brooke Cullison, Director of E-Com and Media at Liquid I.V. We're the #1 powdered hydration brand in the U.S., and I've had the pleasure to see our tentpole journey. We launched our first summer brand campaign in 2022 with pretty low double-digit national awareness, and then fast forward to today, we've just launched our 4th summer brand campaign and eclipsed Powerade in the total functional hydration category. So the spot we're going to share with you all is the one currently running this summer, the Tentpole Live More anthem.
Yeah.
And last but certainly not least, Kelsey.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelsey Newberry, Director of Brand Marketing at EOS. And the campaign that I'm talking about today is one that we ran for the Super Bowl. We took a little bit of a different approach, which I'll get into, as our kind of first foray into the Super Bowl. by running a local linear test. And this campaign was to launch our new body wash. We really wanted to lean into our fragrance equity that we had built with our body lotion. And to do that, we kind of wanted to prove just how great our new body washes smelled. And we tapped some people and brought in their harshest critic to really win them over with our body wash fragrances. So the spot that you'll see is what ran was part of a larger campaign that ran across streaming, YouTube, and paid social, and continues to run today. And these are real sisters and real harsh critics.
Would you say you're a harsh critic?
No.
Describe me.
Big forehead. Mossy. The belt. No.
Cheetah print is in right now. BRB.
You smell good.
So you love it?
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, yes, body wash.
Kelsey, I can say as someone with younger siblings that resonates very deeply with me.
I think it resonated with all
So this question is for all three of you, and Kelsey, maybe we'll start with you since you're sitting next to me. But obviously, as we know, media has become only more fragmented over the past several years. What does the idea of a tentpole mean to you, and what gave you the confidence to want to test an opportunity like the Super Bowl?
Yeah, definitely. For us, Tentpole, it really is about kind of that, really that cultural moment in time, and want to not necessarily create a moment just for us, but to leverage a moment that's already happening. And for the Super Bowl, we really wanted to do something big for our launch, but and we'll talk more about this, but kind of needed to do it in a way where it made sense for us and in our budgets and our strategy, and that we'd be able to kind of really learn from it. And so I think the way that we approached it and worked with our Tenuity partners to craft this test really into the Super Bowl, taking advantage of this hyper-engaged moment in time, and getting some really valuable learnings, kind of gave us that confidence to feel really strong about the approach we took.
Awesome. Graham, how about you?
Awesome. Obviously, large audience, wide-reaching. It's kind of like that the world is watching moment, right? And one of the things that as we were kind of like born on social, which can at times be a very kind of one-to-one personal, intimate relationship with a consumer, which is awesome and allows you to see like this really authentic side of a brand. Moving through a tentpole on TV, like it amplified what consumers thought of us. The consumers that knew us at that time, that had seen us on social, now seeing us on TV, like the credibility that brought was just like massive. They were like, wow, that's this brand that I've kind of known about for years, and they're big time now, right? So there's a bit of this public signaling dynamic when you are on that stage. Which is powerful. And then also for those that you are reaching for the first time, as they go about their social habits, whether it's on TikTok or anything with an algorithm for that matter, they'll stop for an extra half a second. That's all that algorithm needs for a little bit of signal that they're kind of interested in being entertained by your content. So there's like this complementary relationship between the tentpole, the evergreen socials, and stuff like that, and it really allows this kind of powerful jump point. One of the things that gives us confidence about tentpoles is a buzzword that I want to drop, and I hope everybody walks away with this in your toolbox. But it's pattern recognition. So pattern recognition is something that is born through competitive insights. So as we were starting to kind of get to this, I would say, kind of inflection point as a brand, we knew that we had this opportunity to potentially be this like fastest growing beverage brand all the time kind of a thing. And then we went down this path of like really investigating, well, what are those like, what's that profile of the fastest growing brands in all of beverage? It had us kind of going down the route of really investigating Celsius. Not in our category, energy, obviously. But as one of the fastest growing brands there, we wanted to uncode everything they do. Obviously, we're going to understand like some of the content stuff, but I mean, awareness levels, consideration levels, household penetration at every stage of growth. What you end up finding is there's patterns that just simply, settle in. I call them laws of gravity. And if you want to, and you're having conversations with, executive team, and you want to hit a certain revenue mark, you should pretty quickly be able to like, show what that profile needs to look like. And for us, we gain confidence through pattern recognition and competitive insights.
Brooke, how about you?
Yeah, so for Liquid IV, we really start with our customers, and we sat down and wanted to figure out what their hydration needs and moments were to define our tent poles. So we learned that most customers come in one of four categories: travel, nightlife, heat, and performance. And then we also saw that consumption naturally trends upwards during the summer. I'm sure you can see patterns of all of those across the summer moments, whether you're traveling, you're out in the heat, playing outside. So that's where we really arrived in like kind of having that tentpole summer moment and those summer months that we can own. And a really great example of that is our F1 partnership that we used the last 2 years, just coming off our second year partnership, as that like kickoff to our summer moment. And if you guys know anything about F1, the drivers lose a lot of water in the race, but also the fans. Miami in May, it's very hot, very dehydrating. So we always want to figure out a way where we can be there for our customers when they need us the most, and also delight them and have that hydration moment for them.
Love it. Graham,
Yeah.
first of all, the Celsius Poppi 1-2 punch is elite. I can vouch for that. I do want to talk about Super Bowl. Poppi had 2 years in a row, national linear Super Bowl spots, biggest media stage on television. You really can't chat Super Bowl without talking about creative. I think there are, the Chiefs fans in the room that are there for the game, but there are a lot of people who the ads in and of themselves are the reasons that they watch. So I'd love to hear a little more about how your approach changed. What, if anything, you did differently or the same 2 years in a row from a creative standpoint?
Yep. I think Andy mentioned it earlier, but year one was like this rush, kind of like following signal. We basically kind of stumbled into the Super Bowl last minute. We took our year one creative. It was called Future of Soda. It was really a functional piece of creative that just basically told consumers what we are. It's kind of like our announcement to the world. We're a soda. We're Poppi. We basically said it 20 times in 60 seconds. Nothing wrong with that. But it was very functional. Some of the don'ts with Super Bowl creative, by the way, is from a brand standpoint, there's plenty of creatives out there where agencies kind of creative agencies can run wild, or celebrity can kind of overpower the brand, and you're actually left not even understanding, the connection to the brand. So year two, we knew we wanted to take a really thoughtful, research-based approach into our creative. What you saw in the 60 seconds is actually a chop up of 6 different scenes that we shot for. So we had 6 different 30-second commercials to work with. And over the course of several months, we actually partnered with a research company named System 1 to go through an iteration process with this creative, trying and experimenting with different alts. They have survey panels that are providing second-by-second spike ratings, which are giving you a response on the amount of happiness or the emotional dynamic that is showing up with consumers second by second. We iterated our music, got a read back on what was better. We tried different outtakes that were swapped in because we were trying to plus up the humor in this little spot, and we also kind of experimented with voiceovers as well. You put it all together after a several month process, it results in a much more effective piece of creative, because, by the way, the game isn't cheap. Most Tentpoles aren't. So, spending a little bit of money to then like make that piece of creative a little bit more powerful. I wouldn't even say a little bit, a lot more powerful. Evidenced by some of the results that came back that were, not necessarily the editorial. I mean, the editorials are fine. The New York Times, they all have their opinions and stuff like that. But from a data research-based standpoint, YouGov is surveying ad awareness through the Super Bowl, and then also positive, negative sentiment, which they call net buzz, and they also are surveying consideration. Basically, you saw these ads. Are you likely to buy? That composite of all three of those, we ranked number one in YouGov. MarketCast had a question of, we ranked tops for message linkage back to the functionality of the creative. And then EDO actually measures an immediate response, seeing the commercial and immediately going and kind of translating that mental curiosity, translated to your fingertips and going to Google and searching the brand. We ranked top 10 there out of 71 commercials. And then last but not least, System One, one of our super credible partners, rated us number one for fluency, which is the ability to kind of retain what you saw. So that's an interesting way to approach a big tentpole through a kind of a combining the art and the science of creative.
So those are some fantastic stats, and obviously what you've just laid out is a very detailed and deep and broad approach to tentpoles. But Kelsey, your guys' approach to Super Bowl was more targeted and more focused. Can you tell us a little bit about the decision-making process that you went through to take that approach?
Yeah, definitely. So we are a very digital-first, social-first brand, and the Super Bowl was honestly not something we thought could be possible for us, thinking about it just in the national lens. It's obviously, like mentioned, very, very expensive and a huge commitment. And so when we were getting ready for this big launch, this big product launch, and thinking about, what are ways that we can tap into a really large audience, we considered Super Bowl and just wasn't sure how to go about it. And so worked with our partners at Tenuity to really strategize, like what is a way we can kind of test and learn and be able to have the reach, but also be able to fit it into our budget, make it make sense for us, and then most importantly, get learnings from it. So the way that we first went from the local like the local test piece was having multiple factors to create or curate a market list that we felt was really strong and was able, as targeted kind of as you can be with a Super Bowl buy. And then also be able to test into different spot positions. So we were able to run both pre-kick and in-game, and then set up our measurement plan accordingly. So then the results that we could get back were not just like, how did it do overall, but actually how did the ROAS of the in-game spot compare to the pre-kick, and then how did we see different performance in markets and even some at retailer levels. So I think for us, the biggest kind of priorities were ensuring that we had this nice balance between getting high reach, the awareness, the eyeballs on this new launch, but then also balancing that with taking that more kind of targeted test and learn approach and setting up the measurement plan ahead of time, where it really felt like a kind of not an easy sell-in, but kind of an easy yes of, this makes a ton of sense for us. And then we were able, like, as we're now getting the results and seeing really, positive ROAS numbers and kind of being able to prove that out and take those learnings for next year, it's been super valuable.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know we'll talk about this in a few slides, but there's just so many more ways in now with these events, and like they're incredibly premium, but for you guys to have been able to lay the groundwork with something like that and develop the confidence that you needed, it's really exciting.
Yeah, and helps for future year. I mean, now we're talking next year, and it gives us just so much more data and insight, and to be able to kind of craft like what's next for us.
We'll shift gears to the Olympics a bit. Liquid I.V had a presence on the streaming side, which I have to say, the story of kind of live sports and streaming is pretty incredible. It's this space that's historically been dominated by linear TV, that appointment viewing, and our streaming partners have spent a lot of money on sports rights, bringing those games over to their platforms, and it has also opened up access. There's different ways to get into content. It is easier. In some cases, the barrier to entry is lower. So we'd love to hear from Liquid IV's point of view. You know, big presence in the Paris Games, biggest streaming Olympics event in history because of what NBC did with Peacock. So tell us a little more about your thoughts on linear versus streaming and, you know, where this is headed for tentpoles.
Yeah, I think you made a good point, right? Like there is a lower threshold to entry for streaming. So we've been able to test and scale over a few years and figure out what works for us. I also think like as we're planning this, you know, summer tentpole moment, we're thinking about where our customers are. So that's very different than the approach you would take planning a New Year's campaign. So that's why our summer tentpoles are sometimes maybe heavier out of home, or like the F1 example I gave. And similar, it's the same for streaming. So I think some of those bigger reach moments like the NFL aren't on in the summer. So for us, we're sitting there and looking at, hey, what are our customers going to be engaging with or watching during those summer moments? And then obviously last year having the Olympics be on, it was that perfect culmination in everything I mentioned of performance, travel, heat, and then a really nice tentpole end moment to our summer campaign. So that's really made it an easy yes for us to, especially something so big. And then to your point, it being on Peacock and streaming, it really allowed us to reach our customers in an easier way. That gave us a little bit more control over where they're watching, given that time change too, which is something maybe you wouldn't think about. So that was a really successful moment for us, and very exciting to see play out.
Yeah, I know we talked about this a little bit, but as media buyers, it's like to be able to capitalize on demand dynamically in the moment, which isn't possible with a linear TV spot. You know, it was very, very smart by the platform, but also if you know what you're looking for and you're ready, you can take advantage of as a brand, which is awesome.
Yeah. So you've all taken very different but very determined approaches to tentpoles. Brooke, let's start with you here. When you were planning this campaign, what were the KPIs that were important to you from a measurement perspective? And then how did the campaign perform against your expectations?
Yeah, Liquid I.V is we rooted in performance media. So like I mentioned, we only started doing these bigger brand tentpoles a few years ago, but we really wanted to bring that mindset to those media activations. So we look at all the same things that we've kind of mentioned on stage: household penetration, awareness, our MMM ROI is our true north. But going a little deeper than that, we also look at brand love. So how are our customers actually reacting to what we're doing, whether on the ground or on the screen? And we definitely take that approach and make sure we're reflecting that in our learnings year to year as well. So we hold ourselves to a really high standard. We're always barring ourselves against what we did best last. And so that makes it fun, challenging, but also really we can be more innovative for that customer to give them that really cool hydration experience, grab their attention. And it's fun for me to be able to look at channel performance year over year and do something new, different, because we have that baseline as well. So I mentioned a little earlier too, we always take a test to scale approach. So we usually don't just go into these bigger moments like a Super Bowl without doing something in the space first to see how our customers react. So you could leverage podcasts. How did this F1 podcast buy go? Is that something that our customers want to see us in? Would that work well for us? You could say the same for streaming too. We tested slowly into that by channel. We saw that Peacock was a really high ROI channel for us, so that also gave us more confidence going into a larger buy like the Olympics. So those are all a little bit of the pieces we look at. And coming off last summer brand campaign, like it's definitely working and moving in the right direction. That last year was our best performing summer brand campaign to date. So very excited for some of the new and bigger things we're working with Tenuity on this year.
As are we.
I agree. You guys are crushing it. But let's see. The Super Bowl, specifically, is a very intoxicating tentpole to evaluate. Intoxicating is an intentional use of words because one of the variables that I think, I don't know, I kind of put weight on the scale with is that like alcohol consumption through the Super Bowl like increases, right? So there, ad fatigue is a thing. Minute by minute ratings is a thing, depending on, you know. So there's just a lot of variables. But back to measurement, we are like obsessed with surveying this KPI funnel like pre, post, and like through the big event. One of the things that Tenuity and that we've been doing really well, and you guys have provided great education for us along the way, is we talk about it like you can't just have a big bang without any sustain, because as you move through the event, you will see like a big spike in awareness and stuff like that. But just the way that people's brains work, like they will forget about you, you know. And after we got this big step up, we actually found it to be kind of a win that we just got it to stick, because then it can then fall into natural timelines of conversion. And so one of the things I wanted to ask, because as like kind of back to my point about my previous buzzword with pattern recognition, my next one is about growth calculators. That's another big thing that I'm really big on is growth calculators and having different calculators that candidly should validate each other in different ways. We all have them. They've evolved over time. In the last couple of years, we've been really focused on awareness, and to the extent that we can actually say with pretty good confidence how much a point of awareness costs, right? And then you can do the math of 5 points of awareness. I'm just going to use round numbers. Might cost $10 million. Back to the pattern recognition, the laws of gravity for that awareness that you've created, as long as it sticks. That typical conversion rate for our brand, because we're widely available. It's not going to be the same for a cat food brand, because the segment gets smaller. But for our brand, widely available, let's use a 50% conversion rate. So we bought 5 points of awareness. 50% of that's going to convert to trial. Using more data, more pattern recognition, the average household is going to buy $30 a year because this category is such light usage. Like there's kind of a mathematical equation that lines up that says, hey, go buy 5 points of awareness. You're going to convert half of it. That those households are going to potentially buy $30 a year. So for a $10 million spend, you're actually going to generate an incremental $75 million in revenue. And that's the conversation that you're looking to have with the CFOs of the world, and show this evidence-based approach of patterns in the category, measurement throughout, like make everyone feel comfortable kind of along the flight path, and in some cases increase that trajectory, unlock some more budget.
I love that.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say that I guess hasn't been said is, we similarly measure. We're very focused on seeing not just kind of the awareness impact, but what the impact to the business was, the ROAS and the sales numbers. But we also did as I mentioned, we're a social digital brand, wanted to make sure that we were doing something in a bigger way beyond just the spot itself. And so we ran a social on our social channels, a giveaway live during the Super Bowl, where we were for every touchdown giving away a year's supply of our body wash, and being able to kind of bring our highly engaged community, social community, get them involved. And so even though it wasn't necessarily a direct sales impact, seeing the huge numbers for reach and engagement and seeing our community so excited and so involved in this actually was, contributed to a big part of the success. And when we shared out results, was a part that even our leadership team gets really excited about, because that, being such a social first brand and having such a strong community is what stands us apart, in our competitive set. And so that was something that was, maybe not equally, but still very important in the results.
Yeah, I think all three of you have touched on the idea of like correlating the relationship between these upper funnel awareness metrics and the ultimate sales outcome, and I think that that's such an important takeaway for everybody in this room. I know we're getting the signal because we are a little bit over time, so I'll ask any final thoughts from the three of you, anything that the folks in this room should take away from your experience with Tentpoles.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for, us, what I'll say, we obviously took a little bit of a different approach, but I think it really proves that, you may not think that you're, able to enter into something like the Super Bowl, and I think we proved that you are at a lot of different budget levels, and so if you're thinking about taking that risk, I would say do it, but maybe do it in a way that doesn't feel quite as risky by setting up a really strategic plan, being really intentional with your markets, and then setting up a really solid kind of measurement plan so you can make sure you're learning as much as possible.
Love that.
Yeah. Crawl, walk, run. We've done it. Now we're sprinting. And then just building that planning framework so that you can kind of confidently get your executive counterparts kind of on the same page. They need to be caring, especially when they start to look at the patterns, they need to be caring about awareness levels just as much as you do. So to the extent where they're like, obsessed on waiting for results after an event because, they equally share that same motivation. There's only one way to get to the promised land, and very simply there's milestones that have to be achieved.
I would just add, sometimes as media people, we might get so focused on the tentpole, we forget that sustained piece. And at the end of the day, it's really about bringing those customers in and getting that most out of that tentpole event. So making sure that they can engage deeper with your brand and have something to do, have something to look forward to, and making sure you're still reaching out to them post that tentpole. And that's really where that value comes from.
Thank you, guys. There is actually one more tentpole that we need to talk about, and that is that it is Brooke's birthday today. Oh my God!
Oh my God.
I'm not going to sing. That's probably why they cut my mic earlier, just in case. But happy birthday!
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Happy birthday! Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
And thank you
My
guys
pleasure.
all for joining. We've got a coffee break, and I think we're back at 3 in here.
3 o'clock.
So
Thanks all.
good.
Thank you.